Welcome to Blue Talks.
I do want to say welcome, Kate, to this Blue Talks interview. I have had the pleasure of meeting you before, but I'm just going to be completely honest. I just remember loving you oh so much, but I don't remember a whole lot about what you do, which is really cool because now I get to see the new version of you and not just the little bits that I do remember. Because I do remember we met about a year ago and my life was kind of chaos in most areas at that point. So there wasn't really a whole lot going in.
And I would have been living in a van at that point. I would have been pet
Sure,
sitting.
yes.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have even been in Scotland. So lots has changed for both of us now.
Exactly. So now I'm just extra excited and extra curious to know, well, who is Kate today? Not who was Kate last year, what she was doing. No. How have you grown since last year? There's this new version of you. Let's get to know that. So first off, I want to ask you the same question that I do in the Blue Talks Amplifier message show, which I just find so fun because I get to learn about you and your values and your business and how it all relates. So if you're ready, then I want to ask you, what three words, just three, would you love other people to use to describe you? I'm actually going to write this down, even though I don't have my notebook. Grab another one.
That's a great question, first of all. And actually interesting tiny backstory, but I asked my friends this a few years ago, like probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I asked a whole bunch of my friends to describe me with three words so that I could have an understanding of what they
Really?
saw me as. And one of
Aw,
the things that came back was so shocking, and it came back regularly that people would have something like bubbly or friendly or energetic, and I
yeah.
just didn't like perceive myself that way. I just did not perceive myself as bubbly, but it kept coming back.
Oh, I did. That's why we connected. I was like, yeah, you're my kind of people.
Yeah, and so it's
Yeah.
interesting. So I would say, yeah, like cheerful or bubbly is something that
Okay.
I really like that people would get from me, or friendliness, I'm from a small town. So I would say something in that category. I
Yeah.
definitely love people to think of me as. Um, Another one would be like wise or like
Ooh,
intuitively intelligent, that type of
okay.
grounded wisdom, or when people call
Mm,
me soul, I love that. I love being known that way as well.
yeah.
And I would also say loving. It's something I really,
Oh,
so sentimental. Really starting on a feeling note, but I can't do that. I can't do the surface level really at all anyway.
no.
But like loving or deep or wise, these types of qualities are definitely what I like to have people know me as. If they know the real me, that's what they'll say as well.
Exactly. Well, for those who like personality types, mine in the Myers-Briggs version is an ENFJ. So I'm extroverted,
Uh,
intuitive, feeling and judging, but not in like the typical judging kind of way. I haven't
yes.
quite mastered the difference between the P and the J yet, kind of working on that part. But I know
Interesting.
that part of my personality means that we pick up on the subtleties of the human behind the masks and the armor more easily than many of the other types. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It just means it's just easier and more natural for us. So I
Yeah.
love that you said this is the deeper version of me because that's where I want to go in all of my interviews. It's
Mhm.
not just about the work that you do, it's who is the human being behind the work, behind the message, behind the business.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. I just did teach the Myers-Briggs types to
Did
my
you?
empath energetics course literally just a couple weeks ago, Laura. It's so funny.
Okay.
Because I'm fascinated by the same concept you brought up. I'm an INFJ. And
Oh,
I'm
no
very
wonder
much
we get along so much. You're my favorite.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed that between the J and the P doesn't make a huge difference, but who
No.
takes my course, people who identify as empaths or who are highly sensitive and people who are drawn to this work are generally NFs, people who are intuitive,
Yes.
people who are feeling, because that makes total sense. I know
Of
how
course.
other people, slip in and out, so there's not that, broad stroke, I only work with these people, but it was really curious to see how many were ENFJ, INFJ, ENFP, INFP, because
Yeah.
you have this similar way of perceiving, like of taking in the world as well.
Yeah.
And the difference between J and P is also, it's really, I think, also very relevant to just how you're dealing with stress at that time in your life and how you intake information. So it's really, I think that's one that for many people could change, but depending on it's more on how they intake information. So yeah.
Love that. Because one of my intuitive superpowers is that I can read eyes. And so literally people can give me a snapshot of a random person. And I've had people cut out like just this part of somebody and give it to me. And they're like, who is this person? And I go right to personality types because it's so consistent that I can have that conversation where most people get the gist of what I'm talking about. And so I love that you brought up that the NFs tend to be the ones that come to you, but not always.
Yes.
And what I see in the eye reading is your personality type is your default. There's so much room for growth. So just because I'm an extrovert doesn't mean that I can't learn introverted tendencies. That's just
Absolutely.
my default state. So then, like, my job as an extrovert is to learn throughout my life how to be okay with myself. It's very hard.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're all feeling all the time. We also think,
Exactly.
there has to be that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like the spreadsheets all over the place. Like, I'm very intuitive, but yet I've got my spreadsheets. Everything is laid out, data, science. Oh, yeah. It's the yin and the yang, the two sides. I love it.
Yeah, I was
So, Kate,
talking about eye reading like an hour ago, Laura. So we're already on a very good intuitive start here.
synchronicities everywhere. Insert sparkles.
Exactly.
I do want to highlight that your words of cheerful, wise, and loving, they are more unique than many people's words. Many people love to be described as authentic, as kind, as creative. But I love how you take those elements and yet you deepen them in a more specific and more focused kind of way. Because the loving part, you're like, yeah, I'm authentic in my lovingness. How can I love you without being authentic? How can I be wise without that?
Absolutely.
How can I be wise without the creativity? Right? It's there, but it's subtle. And I love the subtleties.
There's no option with me really. So it's interesting to know that it's different. And yeah, words do mean a lot to me. So I guess it's also not surprising to me that I'd be searching, swimming around for those just more accurate, a little bit more, it's this kind of hungry pursuit of self-knowledge that gets me continuing to chase like words and their meaning and their significance, and yeah, being very specific, clearly, as you noted.
Oh, yes. Self-awareness. I just wrote this morning since we were talking. Oh, so many synchronicities. I just wrote this morning that self-awareness is a huge foundation, a huge starting point to any sort of success or high performance. And in the work that I do with entrepreneurs telling their stories better, without that piece, you're just kind of going through the movements.
Exactly. It's like whose
really
story?
work.
You know yourself. Whose story is it then? Truly,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
It's so pivotal. The empath energetics, no surprise, has a lot to do with self-awareness as well, because a lot of the reason that highly sensitive folk and empaths struggle with their high performance, which also is an endlessly fascinating. I have
I know.
habits book on my night table as we speak.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of the reason that I built that program for intuition development and energetic understanding is really like self-awareness, because if you are blaming other people for your lack of energetic strength, you are then going into this place where you feel like the world is against you, or you feel like you're too sensitive, or that you can't handle anything, when it's actually just a skill of perception, and sensitivity is actually just this tool. It's just one sense perception that we have. And I was the stuff that frustrates you is the stuff you're meant to make a change with, that saying. Yeah, it just so
irritating. Where I was gonna go with this.
Really?
was one of the questions I didn't write down yet. I was like, for some reason, all of these questions are popping in my head, and I just needed to chuck it in a spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, ask
Because
me the
now I'm
question.
like, I want to know these things. Yeah. But let's narrow in just a little bit on certain area of your self-awareness. So
Mhm.
this is about your business. We want to learn about that too. How does self-awareness play a role doing the work that you do? And of course, now you have to tell us the work that you do.
Of course. Well, self-awareness was the reason I even got into the work that I do now, because
Yes.
the reason I got into healing work, which is a very large,
Yes.
category, truly. But the reason I got into it was because I was in a really dark time in my life, and I kept having these dreams of this like goat showing me a retreat property and where I would be living and doing this healing work. And I was like, well, that's a really nice thought. That takes me away from the darkness of the day. And
Yes.
in a very morbid, kind of sense. And then I found myself having this dream so often, and then I'd be thinking about it on the subway. I'd be like, oh, this, I'm having a lot of hard feelings, and my brain would just go to this nice place. Then I realized, is that my dream in life? Is this perhaps what, in a so obvious, it just sort of struck me one day, like, apple hitting Newton's head. Oh, maybe this is just what I want in my life. And so, it was really self-awareness, understanding that this was a dream of mine that I had yet to realize, which was the thing causing me so much soul pain and soul loss and emotional disruption at that time in my life. And then through the pursuit of all these different healing avenues, obviously every time you take a new body of understanding of like a healing tool in, you are applying that lens to yourself first. So I have done many things. I'm an aromatherapist, a reflexologist, an advanced Thai yoga massage practitioner, restorative yin yoga. I've done Indian head massage. I've done marma points, like extra advanced things. I'm a hypnotherapist now and a shamanic practitioner, and I've done over 4,000 psychic readings. So if
Wow.
I did not have any self-awareness, I think I'd be on the floor.
The only thing in there that I haven't heard of is the Marma points.
Yeah,
What
marma.
are those?
Yeah, it's like a part of Vedic. It's like a part of an Ayurvedic system of it's energy
Oh,
points. It's like
okay.
meridian,
Yeah.
similar to reflexology, and it's just yeah, just more energy points. I think I'm just fascinated by all the different ways we've tried to understand energy over the years and how it
Yeah.
relates to our body. So yeah, it's another one of those. So happy to give you another rabbit hole to delve into.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There are rabbit holes everywhere. And then I spend most of my time like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. Lately, I've been watching a documentary series or docu-series on Netflix about near-death experiences and everything involved with that. And so there's this scientific community that is starting to question life beyond the physical life.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yes, bring in the data, have the conversations, see all of the weird and crazy experiences that some of us have had, many of us have had.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's not happenstance, and it's fascinating actually in the shamanic world. Often those NDEs, those near death experiences, are considered shamanic initiations. And there's a number of things that are considered shamanic initiations, but it makes total sense, right? Because
Yeah.
from the spirit lens, what's happening, and I'm totally a science and logic brain as well,
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
total. I think we're on the same nerd
You're like,
frequency.
how do
Yeah.
they? I
Yeah.
need to find how everything connects because
Yeah.
there are few people that know how to connect.
Yes,
Everybody can find the
exactly.
puzzle pieces, but few can put them together. That's what I
Exactly.
love. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so touched. Clients say that to me all the time. That's why they like working with me,
Yes.
because I'll drill it
Mhm.
down, I'll find the core. They don't waste the time going in circles the way I went in circles for many years in the attempt to figure it all out. But the near-death experiences, I think what's so fascinating is they are linked to this shamanic initiation, because when you think about it, it's like your brain is logging off and you're in that total limbo state. At some point, you're experiencing such a heavy soul trauma and soul loss associated with that your body separates from your spirit, because your spirit's like, we got to get out of here, something crazy is going to happen, right? This is real dangerous, and your spirit leaves your body, and so you have that experience of separation from self,
Yeah.
which allows you to understand then human suffering and soul loss on a very deep level. You come back to your body, and then you're capable of accessing this non-ordinary realm in a flash more easily than your average person. And there's also a number of other experiences that aren't maybe considered near death, but have that similar quality. So when I was a kid, I had seizures. And so that's another shamanic initiation, is I had these absence seizures where my brain would just log off, restart, and I had no control over it. It happened many times a day. And it was from stress, from great levels of stress. And so this soul loss, it was like I was leaving, I had no control. It was like I abandoned myself, my spirit just abandoned me and then would flood back into my body, sometimes without even my awareness. So I joke that that's what makes it so easy for me to go off now and actually bring back messages this time. Whereas as a kid, you were just scared because it's, you know, something, you know, is out of your control. And what a that's similar to what a near-death experience feels like for people.
So many questions there, but I want to start with the seizures, just because it relates to a friend of mine. I remember her grade 12 year. She had more seizures in that 1 year than she did the rest of her life combined.
Mhm.
And so now I want to know, I wonder if she was having a similar experience and just didn't have the words to articulate it.
Well, she
Who
absolutely
knows?
was. It's just whether or not it's ever going to get put into that framework for her in her life, right? It became
Exactly.
so invaluable to me to see, you know, my experiences this way, because later on in life, when I was going through a really tough time emotionally, like I was mentioning, my default was to leave, like to shut off. And so I would detach completely. You know, we know it now in psychology terms as depersonalization or derealization. It's
Yes.
wandering down the street. Like it's a very scary thing. You just would be like, here, oh, this is bizarre. And I'm so orderly and in control. And I was so cautious. And I was so, you know, I had really was so attentive to everything, hyper vigilant, I would say at that time, that for me to log off, I was like, oh no, something's broken in Kate brain, you know, there is
Yeah.
something wrong. And but that again, it was like this training for, hey, it's not actually as scary as you think. When you leave, it's not saying that you're gone forever, and that constant
Mm.
getting back to self is now actually how I think I have a really good level of presence, and I don't really drift off that same way anymore because I feel so comfortable now in this earth body.
Aw.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's from collecting all these soul parts. I've like brought so many aspects of myself back
Ooh,
to myself. We're
soul
we're
parts.
oh, yes, this is part of the shamanic understanding, is that when harshness happens to us or we interpret harshness, you know, it's
Mhm.
perception's everything, right, Laura?
Yes. Yeah.
But when we interpret something really scary or painful to have happened to us, it's like one part of us, our true nature, leaves just for safekeeping, you know, and it
Mm.
could be from anything. Sometimes it's like, you know, you drop your ice cream as a kid and somehow it leaves you forever, you know, and other times it's like something intense, like you get into a car accident, you know, this is a typical, or surgeries, right? When your
Yeah.
body goes under anesthesia, if you don't warn your body first, you know, and your soul's like, what's happening?
Oh, I
Yeah, so
never
always
thought
that
about that.
conversation. Oh yeah. Yeah. I wish someone had told me that before I got my wisdom teeth out, you know. I should really just be like, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this on purpose. We're gonna leave on purpose this time.
Please come back.
Yeah, we're all gonna return back. Yeah, yeah. Meet back at the center.
Me
But
back at the muster station.
exactly, exactly. And it really is the beautiful journey of going through life though, because I don't think we're ever fully complete, you know.
Mm.
There's always like more of us to be able to like bring up and self-express and bring back to ourselves. And then as life goes on, you know, there's going to be things that come my way that might challenge that, and that you have to call back then aspects of myself, and how beautiful it is to give everyone the tools to do that. And it's what we've
Mm.
since the beginning of time. We just haven't talked about it in that context for quite a while.
Yes. So you mentioned seizures and you mentioned healing. And we all know that healing is this broad topic. It's like wellness. Well, there are like 50,000 things under that. Does does this story of your seizures, does that play a key role in why you do the healing work?
Yeah, I would say it does, in that, you know, having an early on, because that was during my preteen years, having an early on
Okay.
experience of that lack of control and that feeling of you know, fear, truly concern for my well-being. It incited me to care about, you know, how my brain works and what suffering is. But actually, way before that, and probably more importantly, I'd say, especially as such a caring or, loving person, that my mother also has multiple sclerosis. And I think most children of parents who are dealing with some sort of long-standing condition resonate with this feeling of, oh my God, I just wish I knew the solution to help my mom feel better. Right. And how simple and
Yes.
pure that is. That really, I think, actually has a lot more to do with it. And then, of course, the
Yes.
other aspect was out of great need. I was very hurt by the world. I was very, I was in a really dark place, like I said. So that it was out of necessity to get myself out of this hole, this depth that felt scary, to get
Yeah.
comfortable wading in the depth of the ocean waters, as I call them, at the bottom of the ocean where it's like very scary stuff goes on. I
Yes.
love that zone now, but I did not love that zone at the time. I was not ready to feel all the discomfort that comes with that. And through
Mm.
healing, of course, you're up against it, you soothe it, you're up against it, you soothe it, and eventually they settle out. It's truly such a beautiful path. And it's emotional actually to think about. When I put all this in context, to look at it, like what a beautiful journey. And I'm only 31, so I'm like, I get so
Oh,
much
really?
life. Yeah.
Your energy doesn't say 31.
No, I
No.
was just at the gym the other day, and this girl in the sauna told me I look so much younger than I am. And I was so flattered because I'm used to everyone telling me I'm such an old soul that I always feel like I'm like 80
Well,
years old.
yeah. I
I
saw
was,
a cartoon about that this morning. It was somebody's 40th birthday, and they're like, "Happy birthday! You're only as old as you feel." And he's like, "Oh, that means I'm 85."
yeah, 85 is normally what I say in that joke, actually. I've
Yes.
since Benjamin buttoned myself down to 80. Soul
Nice.
level 80.
Hmm.
Thank
So
you.
then, can you describe to us what your version and expression of healing is?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So it's a good question because truly, like for many years, how it's worked is that people will come to me to do one-to-one sessions and say, just give me whatever you got. They're not actually coming to me for a specific thing. And this is so strange because honestly, this happened way before I was ready for people to treat me that way. I was like, book with me what you want. You want Thai massage, you want aromatherapy, you want reflex, you want energy, you want, and people will be like, I just like talking to you. You help me think about my stuff. And I go, well, I'm not trained in talking to people. Trained in wisdom giving. That's not really a thing. And then I realized it is a thing, actually. That's what
Totally
intuitive.
think.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. And so over time, of course, and with the pandemic, so beautiful, actually, the pandemic came in and interrupted, sideswiped I had a in-person location where I was doing all this body work. And then
Yeah.
I realized actually a skill that I do have that can translate to the online world is what people were already asking me for, this oracle work. And so I shifted.
Okay.
I was working part-time for another business, a weight loss business, actually, coaching. And I was like,
Yeah.
I get out of this because I know my work can do so much more and so much, deeper layers can be helped with people. That then I switched it into, I was doing virtual assistant things, just trying to like, how could I shift out of, owing my time to some company and bringing it back to myself? And then through this business healing and getting confidence, I was able to then start my YouTube channel doing oracle work at the same time. And in that time, I realized, yeah, that's a skill that was untapped. And I started doing all these psychic readings throughout the pandemic, proving to myself I could trust my intuition. And then I built this intuition program. So healing to me works like, being receptive to what spirit wants for me. So now actually in my journey, I just did the talk at Cambridge University with Blue Talks this last summer on, thank you, on the power of receptive brain states in healing community. Because
Ooh.
everything I do, hypnotherapy, all about being receptive, receiving things in your subconscious mind that benefit you to then have your reactions and your conscious behaviors become influenced by that subconscious like belief shift, right? Shamanic
Yeah.
healing, you need to be receptive. I need to be receptive as the shamanic practitioner to be able to leave this world comfortably, get gifts from the non-ordinary, bring them back. You've got to then be receiving, in a relaxed brain state in order to have that. When I used to do body work, you don't actually relax until you get your mind and nervous system into that receptive state. I'm so passionate about the nervous system in its role in our healing, obviously.
Me too.
Ignore the nervous system and its influence. And then also with oracle and intuitive work and with psychic work, like I have to be in a receptive state in my brain to not influence it with my interruptions, my criticism, my influence of logic versus intuition, right? And
Yeah.
allow everything to fall where it needs to, allow my brain to access things as it's capable of doing. So healing to me looks like receptivity.
Yes. Yes.
Spirit,
100% yes. I
right?
can't say it enough. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that, I mean, that's where I'm at currently. And then I would also say healing also looks like tuning into your own like full soul self-expression. So now
Mm,
the other side of me is like pursuing art and my music. And this is like the next stage of my evolution is, of course, continuing to serve clients and also serving myself in this higher need way of my
yeah.
own sense-based expression, my creative expression.
That's where I was going to go next. That is my question
Oh,
number two. It's
really?
like, what is something that most people don't know about you? And you did mention some of those hobbies you're doing on the side. So whatever you want, you can go there or go somewhere else. What's something that
Yeah.
most people don't know about you?
Most people don't know about me that I was a burlesque performer.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would be so much fun.
it is fun. And it's a beautiful aspect of my journey as well, because coming into the feminine, which of course is linked to receptivity, can we say it louder in
Yes.
the back, right? It's
Mhm.
that obviously receptivity, feminine energy, sense expression, sensuality, also creativity and intuition, it all lives in this feminine, in this energetic state, which is more in the receiving mode. And a lot of the stress that I had in life was honestly like I was bullied as a kid because boys had crushes on me. And so this idea, I know it's like it's such a sad
We
one.
have no idea.
What a tough life, you know. Yeah, but like, but also it, I really, even if I did have an idea, it wasn't anything I could do to control it or stop it. And it felt like this uncomfortable force that existed in my life that interrupted my ability to have friends, either girls or boys, because something was getting messed up on either side. And the
Yeah.
pure child heart in me, the innocent child heart, truly just wanted friends. And so this thing followed me through life of just being like, well, maybe I change this, maybe I try to be less, you know, magnetizing or attractive, or maybe I try to just be overtly friendly so that you know, and there was never this right concoction. The right concoction is like you at your full self and accepting, you know,
Yeah.
how that looks, and being kind and caring of other people and their feelings. Of course, I think I always attempted to be, but what I realized was that I actually so withheld my sensual expression because I was so afraid of the potent force that it is. And I think, you know, the patriarchy does that to us too. You know, we all come by it, honestly, that fear.
Yeah.
And so burlesque and releasing, you know, nude photography or life drawing, like all of these things that I've delved into have been this freeing of my soul self. And so I've recently, it's, you know, so befitting our timing talking about this, because
I
I've just
know.
brought back Ophelia Goodness is my artist name and my burlesque name. And Ophelia Goodness is now going to be what I put my music under, and my shamanic soul art, this amazing art process of like doing soul portraits and like reading and healing journeys based on what's going on in people's lives. And then also my poetry, my photography, anything that comes into mind. So I've already declared 2024 the year of unleashed creative expression.
Love your segues into like literally you're going through my questions in order. They were just random thoughts that I needed to throw on paper. So the next question is, what are you currently working on that we can get excited about with you?
Well, I'll list two things more specifically, but since I'm
Sure.
already basically answering that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not surprised at all, Laura. I think if you make a list, I'm going to answer it whether I knew it or not. That's
Okay, we're
so
gonna see if
funny.
you know the next question.
Oh gosh, no, put me up to the test. That's funny. So I will say, what I am creating is this empath energetics manual and this season of transformation. So
Oh.
I love my empath energetics course, and I'm knowing that it has to go to more people. And so I've got oracle decks that go along with it that I'm really excited for in 2024. Again, unleash
Okay.
expression. And so that's a beautiful project. The season of transformation, it's got the shamanic healing, an oracle work service with me, and the hypnotherapy. And so it's like stuff like that in my healing work. I'm really jazzed about just being like, what's the highest level of offering, that I can give and still be accessible to people. I really think it's so accessible. It's like 185 per month for 3 months of that like epic work, which I think is like unheard of. Most people are charging like 6,000 per, these days in that world.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'm really excited about is on the creative front, I'm creating an album of my ancestors' poems that I've turned into songs. Like
Aww.
songs of Montrose. And so I'm going to film it and record it next year. I'm so excited for it. So I'm just in the process of looking for funding and reaching out to these different societies of, history preservation. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's a really beautiful journey.
Like I had this little well up from my heart into my throat, and now my tongue is all tingly.
Yeah,
That sounds beautiful.
it is beautiful. And I feel so connected to him. And there's a reason that I'm here in Scotland. He was an ancestor
Mhm.
that was from Scotland many years ago. And as part of my shamanic, personal work and personal study, I've been doing this pilgrimage to like reconnect with him. It's so amazing. Oh no, did I answer the question? I totally did. Oh my gosh. Oh, geez.
Okay, I'm just gonna read it. Who are some of the people that have influenced you to get to this point?
Sir
I
James
have to
Graham.
screenshot this and send it to you
Please do.
afterwards.
That's
No edits.
amazing.
It's just there.
That's wild. Honestly, I
Oh my
was
God.
doubting that I was even going to answer. Like, I was like, oh, now that we've made that joke, I'm not going to get it. But
No, you did. I only have two more questions. Actually, one more. One more after that. And then one with just a note to make sure that we talked about it for you.
okay, beautiful. So yeah, who influences me? I've got funny ones for this. So I have Sir James Graham, first Marquis of Montrose. That's my ancestor. He's
Okay.
clearly a great influence. I've got Einstein. Love me some Einstein. Big celeb
Okay.
crush. Yeah. Einstein, obviously a prolific thinker, also a prolific feeler. He's a very feeling human. And I think a lot of these, Tesla as well, I think a lot of our early scientists, before we separated science and spirit as much, before we valued science over spirit, they do have a lot more of that combined knowledge. So it's from reaching back there. It's sometimes that we can get a lot of clarity on what we now know and then cross-reference it, right? We have so much modern understanding on the science front, and spirit is so close now. They match a lot more, a lot more regularly. Quantum's like, yeah, this makes sense. And so yeah, fine. And I would also say Arlene Dickinson. If anyone knows, yeah, she is she's one of the sharks on she's one of the dragons on Dragon's Den, not shark on Shark Tank. She's one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. But she's this just beautiful example, I think, of a very raw, use the word authentic. I love that word. She's very genuine. And she holds a lot of financial power, but also a lot of like influence. And she holds a lot of that without really sacrificing her like quirky self. And I really have always valued that. I find her to be very comforting. She showed up in a journey one time, actually, a shamanic journey, me and Arlene. Yeah,
Nice.
those are the three people that jump to mind at the moment.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of meeting Arlene in
Oh,
Toronto at
yeah.
an entrepreneurship conference. And to me, what stood out to her was just her presence.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like she just has this, it's not like a hard, commanding presence. It's like this soft, but yet firm, open presence that you're
Exactly.
just like, I can take comfort in knowing that you got me, but
Yes.
also that I can talk to you about anything.
Yes. And she
Yeah,
holds so much actual what we would perceive as power. And yet it's
yeah,
not scary. It's not confronting. It's
no,
not threatening.
no,
Yeah. Oh, soft and firm. Definitely. Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't segue into this one, so one
Yes.
expert. No, just joking. So I do want to know, just because I want to hit on this, because
Mhm.
we could talk forever, and I just want to make sure that we're good. So,
Yes.
what were some of the hardest parts for you about getting to where you are now?
Mm.
I want to know
Um,
all the dirty secrets. No.
Yeah, I'm like, let's get real clear on this
Yeah.
one. I think one of the things that first jumps out is the feeling along the way of I'm never gonna figure this out. I'm never going to think my way through the suffering, and no one seems to have the answers for me. That
Mhm.
endless struggle was very scary for a number of years. I think it's, I have goosebumps saying this because I think it's what gives me so much confidence in what I do now, is that for many people, I can be the voice of, there are some answers over here, and I'm going to help you figure out the ones we don't have answers to together. And also you have all the answers. And that something is maybe what I would have needed to hear early on. Because it was really difficult, really hard to feel deep pits of internal suffering, and then also to feel like I was performing and like no one even knew the depth of what I was experiencing on the inside. I was like a covert emotional implosion. A lot of people I went to college with had no idea I was having daily panic attacks. I would go to the washroom just to like hyperventilate and then go back to class, and I'd sleep in between just so that I could shut off the world. And yet I was so helpful to people, like, residents. And I was used to be a resident advisor, and they used to call me Guru Kate because they got so much help from me. I would massage people on set, and I didn't even remember that I did that. And I was like, oh, I guess it's a surprise I went into massage. No, Kate, you did it all the time. You were always naturally doing that. But truly, I don't even, I have so many gaps of memory in that time because of how internally stressed I was. So I have to say, to feel like unseen in my struggle and to feel like I was never going to get answers, that was like, I think one of the hardest experiences to have for many years, that feeling of not truly being understood on that deep level.
But I like that you brought up those little subtleties. I call it the purple fuzzy Care Bear sticky toe socks analogy, because when we're in the middle of all of our crap, we're basically hiding. Okay, we know that there's a field with some goodness and success over there. We don't know how to get there. We think it's some mystical, magical field. But yet, when somebody comes into our space and has the ability to say, I can see that you're wearing purple, fuzzy Care Bear sticky toe socks, you're like, there is no way that they guessed this.
Yes,
No way whatsoever. You had to have seen me. You had to have been there before in order to get that much detail.
absolutely.
That's really what we're looking for when people are telling their stories, is that
Yeah.
it's not just about the tools, the many tools and the many titles you've gathered over the years. It's, I've been through this emotional journey, and here's how I have expressed it in these many different ways, because
Yes,
they have helped me in these many different ways. And I've taken all of those puzzle pieces that we mentioned at the beginning, and I've learned how to put them together in a way that works for me.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And, the hope is that you save people some time and suffering by having gone through
exactly.
so much time and suffering yourself, you know?
So then here's a deeper question.
Huh.
Kate, do you feel today that you were the hero that you needed back in that moment of deep struggle?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually say I think I met myself. I really do feel that like 20-year-old me
Um,
was dreaming of, because I actually live on a retreat center now and manage a retreat center. So like I was
okay.
dreaming of that reality that I currently exist in now. And right
Mhm.
now I'm getting dreams that I think maybe download for the next 10 years of my life, because they're like, whoa, that's really far
Yes.
from me, but that's the woman I'd like to be. Right.
Yeah.
And so now that dream doesn't come in as a 10-ton weight. Whereas when I was 20, oh my gosh, I was like, that's so far from who I am now. How the heck?
Yeah.
How the heck am I going to get there? Right. And so I would say that higher self is such a guide for all of us. It's when we can meet them in that way where we're looking to understand them and not just intimidated by them, that it becomes easier to like walk alongside and say, this is me and this is me. And that's me realized right now, because that version of me at 50, 60, years old is seeing me right now going, that's my life. That's how I got from there to here. Right.
Yeah.
Um, I love this saying. I don't know exactly how he put it, but Einstein said this, that something that brings him light in his darkest times is knowing that there are other people in the world who want a better world. and that thought kept me alive a lot. Like truly, when I was in my deeper parts of suffering, was that I was like, there must be other people who feel this same level of passion for better living and anguish for reduced suffering and need to be understood and need to have their feelings make sense, or who feel lost and then become found. I would really, I put a lot of faith in the idea that there are so many people who want a better world than the one I was viewing, the one I was perceiving at that time, right?
Yeah, I just wrote about that yesterday, actually, and did my whole Monday morning mindfulness on that idea of feeling misunderstood,
Yeah.
because it relates so closely to my emotional journey, which is rejection to connection. Like, I want
Yes.
to make sure I identify the specific emotions, because if I say that I'm stressed, I could give you thousands of tools for that. If I
Mhm.
say that I'm feeling rejected, I could have five. It's just
Absolutely.
so much less overwhelming when I can be specific. So that's where I want
Absolutely.
to move conversations. But I was writing about this idea of feeling misunderstood because that is the idea of feeling disconnected. And
Mhm.
really, that disconnection is with the self. And so, again, I'm rejecting the self. And then I
That's
was like, oh, I'm feeling misunderstood by other people because I'm misunderstanding myself.
Yes. What mind trip. It's so funny. You're reading my mind, Laura, because I was just saying in my head, oh, you know what? Another wound that I'd like to list as to how, how did I get there to here and what was actually going on? I just recently addressed this summer in a really powerful shamanic ceremony, is this idea of self-abandonment, right? And I have done a talk on disconnection to greater connection, how anytime we
Oh,
disconnect, anytime we leave this realm, I now
yeah.
come back with greater connection to this earthly realm because I've got messages. And that was happening even at the time without me realizing. But that fear of self-abandonment was so thick and so pervasive in so many aspects of life. And self-abandonment shows up in many ways. We act like not ourselves whenever we leave ourselves. And so how does that look in all the different colorful ways we can decide to live our lives? Of course. And so self-abandonment, disconnection, rejection of self, this is all like, I think it plagues so many of us. And yet when we don't nail it right on the head, when we don't stare it in the face, it continues to evade us, right? Because we're running from it. And what a painful thing to run from yourself. On a soul level, it's one of the harshest things you can do, is leave
Well,
yourself.
that's where that clarity comes in, right? The purple
Absolutely.
fuzzy care bear stitch.
I
They're
know
just
those
my
purple
props.
socks so well.
But it's the being brave enough. I call it courageous connection. Okay. So
Mhm.
it's being brave enough to look at that old version of ourselves as they are in that moment
Mhm.
without trying to change anything, and
Yes.
looking at old Kate or old Laura or old viewer and saying, I love that version of me unconditionally. Nothing
Absolutely.
needs to change, but I'm here for when you're ready. Because we can have emotions, but staying in an uncomfortable or an unhealthy emotion is not okay.
Mhm.
Having it is perfectly fine. Staying there forever is not. So when you're ready to move
Absolutely.
up the scale, I'm here for you. But until
Absolutely.
then, we'll just sit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then there's less running when you're sitting. Hey, how
There's so
convenient.
much less running. We've talked about this in the Blue Talks, the last Amplify Your Message event, where sometimes we have to tell ourselves, okay, Laura, you feeling really crappy right now? You've got 15 minutes to give yourself a pity party.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's over with. Then you move on. But you can
Yes.
be as pitiful to yourself as you want in those 15 minutes. Let it all out. And
Yeah. And
it feels so good.
and the smartest thing I think in that, the wisest thing truly, is that it's let it all out, like let it actually be all,
Yeah.
rather than, often we are so afraid of what the bottom of the
Yeah.
barrel, bottom of the well, deepest part of the ocean is going to look like or feel like. I know that's like probably half of what created anxiety and PTSD, all these types of things, all these labels that were going on in my life, because
Yeah.
it's like I was so afraid of that discomfort, what that discomfort might mean, how it might change things, what other people might think if I'm actually letting myself have that, that it was so withheld. That withheld was this push-pull force that kept it with me, right? I was hearing one of my clients talked about, like, I've just got to let this go. And I called her out, lovingly. lovingly call up, I call it, instead of call out.
Oh, I like it.
Call up to yourself, you know, to your higher evolution. Truly, it was a call up to say, if you're choosing to let go of something, it means you're clinging to it, right? If you say you've got to let go of something, every time you show up to a session, you say you have to let go of a thing. I'm just calling BS on that right now, right? Because that's you saying, I've got this thing I need to let go of.
Just I remember being so angry every time people would tell me, "Oh, just let go, just let go." I'm like, but how? How do I
No.
let go?
Useless advice. You know what I say? Invite in, call in what it is you'd like. That stuff just drops away. All the stuff you didn't want to hold on to, you know, you're just not going to have room for it if you've got all the, it's like someone gives you a cake. You're going to drop your bag of apples that you didn't really care about, right? Like, I'm taking that cake, whatever it is.
On the cake.
Like
If it's a pound cake, I'm definitely dropping the apples. If it's a normal cake, I'm probably keeping the apples.
Honestly, I love apples, actually. So I should have used
Yeah.
some other example, but
You like those molasses Halloween candies? We're just gonna drop all of those.
Drop those before anyone even hands me a cake. Who made those, honestly?
So Kate, I wanna dive back into the emotions that we were just playing with there for a moment of that anger. Like, these things are not okay. This is kind of making me mad, pissing me off, extending my boundaries to places that I'm uncomfortable. So what is it that makes you angry about the work that you do? Because it's tied to your message. So we'll do that after.
It's true. No, it's true. And so interesting because for many years, I would say constantly when I was a kid, I'd say I don't have anger. It just skips right over to sadness. I'd say I don't have anger. But I really realized later on, no fault of my parents. Obviously, they wanted a peaceful household, but I think I just never felt anger was going to be received well, or that I didn't know how it could be expressed. And then, you know, I dated a lot of men who had anger issues, surprisingly, just so I could experience what's anger. And I got a full encyclopedia understanding of what that looks like. And then was able to tap into my own. I love this idea of sacred rage. The stuff that I am annoyed about is the stuff that fuels me. And the stuff that I feel charged about is the stuff that gives me the energy and the life force to go and help the world. And so, you know, what annoyed me and frustrated me about the empath and highly sensitive community was the amount of like blaming others for their own experience. That really frustrated me. So I built a whole program to bring people back to themselves so that that's not a risk anymore. That's not a factor. And then, you know, they don't have tools to protect themselves. Well, here you go. You don't need to protect yourself if you feel full energy, actually. You know, you then beam out so much that you're not really worried about how other people influence you. And so that is something that really frustrated me. Yeah. There's injustices in the world, I think, you know, that are this sacred rage stuff that actually really upsets me. Stuff with children really upsets me. I know I'm here to help children. I had this vision come through recently this summer of an orphanage in Madagascar, of all places. I've never been to Madagascar. It's like so wild that this has opened up. It made so much sense to me because I've felt this frustration for, and frustration's not, it's way too light of a word, for injustices against children and for injustices on, you know, how do we get this luxury spice of vanilla and yet it's like one of the poorest countries and they have so much crime and there's sex trafficking and there's, you know, there's no way that makes sense in my head. And yet we cannot solve all the issues of the world. We've got to go to the ones that our specific soul and spirit is meant to go towards. Otherwise, as sensitive people, we get weighed the heck down, which is why a lot of sensitive people can't handle the news because they're exposed to all of it and they feel powerless, right? That's the opposite, right? I feel power when I think it's possible I can make a difference in one aspect of the world. And that comes in clear to me because I'm mad that exists. It brings up so many emotions. You can tell I'm speaking way more like,
oh yeah, no, that's where I wanted to go. Yes,
absolutely. And so it's these sacred rage things that actually have to be expressed. And yet, just like you said, it's so uncomfortable to hold things and have that feeling bubble and stagnate. And so we do need a lot of movement. I think physical movement allows us to like channel and do something with this energy so it doesn't stay stuck somewhere or feeling stuck somewhere.
That's exactly where I wanted to take this, is I wanted to highlight that it's okay for us to be angry as human beings as well as business owners. Okay, we have this perception of what professionalism is. Don't have emotions. Bullcrap.
Mhm, mhm.
Emotions are what drive meaning behind the logic and the data and the transactions that we make. To me,
Absolutely.
heart-centered business is human beings helping other human beings to be the human beings that they want to become.
Mhm.
So without emotions, how do we know where to place meaning? How do we know it's
Absolutely.
important for somebody and not important for somebody else?
And I don't think we really
Emotions
make
give us
decisions,
clarity.
right? And we don't make decisions without emotion, do we? We like to think it's based on
Exactly.
logic, but we really do. We feel it and then we make a decision.
Oh, we feel it.
And
And
the
that's how we weigh
confidence
the
and
logic.
faith. Exactly, exactly. And all our faith comes after we make a decision, right? We make a
Exactly.
decision and then our confidence is like, okay, now that we've made that decision, better buck up and believe in it.
Yeah. So now that we've highlighted the things that make you angry,
Mhm.
how do you, I'm going to use a word I'm working with lately. How do you transmute or shift or adjust or up level that energy into something that is now your momentum, is now your power into the message that you have?
I dance, I create, I sing.
Yeah.
And I connect with my guides, truly. Truly,
Yeah.
when I am stuck staring at a wall, just not sure what to do, and I feel like I don't know how to shift this, or I feel in that, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this kind of circle of energy. I go and ask my guides, what am I supposed to do about this thing? What is that pointing me to? I visit an animal, a power animal, or I receive guidance from ancestors who have passed on, or I sing to bring joy back into my body and recall what that feels like. I had a client tell me recently, because I decided to open with a song before I did this talk, on going in circles when healing, actually, which is really funny. Um, and I was, I opened with this song and she said, wow, I just felt so much joy in like my heart and my throat. And I said, well, that's what I'm feeling. So it makes a lot of sense. I work with sensitive beings. They're all going to feel, what everyone else is. And dance, again, dance, I think, especially for the rage, especially for the stuff that is feeling like it is beyond words, anything that's beyond words, I think movement, dance, freeing your body. I'm actually committing, it's hilarious that we're talking about this, because I'm committing to a daily dance back to my soul self practice.
Yeah.
And it'll be on my Ophelia Goodness, my Ophelia Goodness page, and works that way, because I think
Nice.
it's so critically important. That's what shamans always used to say. When was the last time you danced and sung? That was how they knew if you were well or not, truly.
I would definitely agree. First, I have a friend of mine who does dancing meditations. And I
Beautiful.
love her energy. She just like she's making you free flow and you're just like, I'm so nervous. No, her energy just really grounds you and you just wiggle. It's great.
Yes,
And for
exactly.
me, power vocals
Mhm,
are the thing that I love. And I
mhm.
know that if I haven't sung any sort of power vocals in my house or out of my house, then I get pretty sad or depressed really
Yes,
quickly. Because
yes,
I know for me, I use it as a part of my vagus nerve stimulation. I have my
absolutely.
own process that I created, and then singing is a part of that for me.
Has to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
vibrational healing at its finest. So
Oh,
happy
yeah.
for vagus nerve. We are of the same mind.
Oh, I know. I was like, where did I go from? I went from like Chantel to Adele, and there was some Sia in there, and
Yes, love it.
Lizzie Hale. Yeah,
Yes.
all
Mm,
kinds of sounds. Just
beautiful.
so good. So then,
Yes.
Kate, what if you could kind of like dwindle down your message into something tangible that people could easily share, what would your message be?
Radical, deep transformation is entirely attainable through receptivity and personal responsibility.
Ooh, that last part, the personal responsibility.
Oops, got to take
No,
that too.
no, I love that you're just like, here is this truth with this extra layer of truth to it that may hurt a little, but it just like it's so wrapped up in each other that you need to do both.
It's difficult to just say be receptive if you don't take responsibility for the ways you are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did an interview with Dr. Joe Vitale,
Mm,
and from there, I was inspired to read his book, Zero Limits. Like
mhm.
I had heard about it, and I was just like, whatever. when I read the book for the first time, I finally realized why now was the time for me. I didn't have the understanding before that interview to know what the book was talking about on that deeper level. Like surface level, I would have got it, I would have read it, probably would have put it on my shelf, never thought about it again. But getting to that point meant that I could look at the subtleties, since we mentioned that. I could look at the deeper truth, since we mentioned that, to really have a transformational experience. And my takeaway was, of course, I thought about it logically. I was like, okay, how do I math this up if we're going to go Einstein level? So if you are pissing me off, let's just say you made me angry, Kate, which I don't think is going to happen, but let's just say it happened. Okay. Then it is my job to create zero limit between us. So for those who are visual learners like me, just imagine like there's a rope between you and me. You're pissing me off so much. You're taking that energy, that much energy from me, and you're tied to me. That's where all of those, cord cutting things come from. And I'm like, okay, what if it's math? What if on a scale of 1 to 10, you're pissing me off at a 9?
That's some good work
And
I've
so,
done.
and so I'm showing up in life at a 9. Then it's my job to have that cord as a multiplier, because that's what happens. So 9 times 9 is 81. Oh my God, life is crazy at that point. But if I bring myself down to a 0, where I forgive myself, give myself grace, and then say, I'm not going to focus on this anymore. It is what it is. I'm done putting energy here. I'm a 0. So 0 times anything is 0. It's like, that makes so much sense. So now, like, I see these things, as you were talking about empaths being affected by people all the time. I see these things, the news, all of that, and I just imagine that math with the cord, and I'm like, no, 0 multiplier. I'm a 0. Get me to 0. I'll be okay.
Yeah. And putting care into the things that your soul and spirit is meant to be here for, putting that care into and doing something about it, rather than, stirring in that, swimming in that nothingness where it feels like, powerless. That there's no point in doing that for any longer than it already happens to us.
Yeah. But without that awareness and without that deeper truth, we can never get to that 0. And you know what? That's what other people are for, to help us see the different perspectives and facets of who we are. So I just want to thank you on behalf of everybody watching, and of course, Blue Talks. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being the type of person that you are and helping people the way that you want to help them. So thank you.
Thank you. Back at you, allowing people to be their true self and shine forward. And I just love your style in you truly are a very receptive interviewer, and that you'll be so curious and so passionate about exploring, the depth of who that person is as well. It's a necessary thing in this world.
I have 2 more questions before we go. These are some of my favorite. I always like to end with, okay, what would be crazy cool? Not logical. I'm thinking like genie snaps its fingers. Crazy cool. What would be crazy cool to happen for you in the next year?
What would be crazy cool to happen in the next year? Would be running retreats that feel like when people leave them, they feel like they've been reborn. And that's no small feat. It's something I'm up to the task for. I love the idea of doing a couples retreat where the couple leaves feeling like they are new people and stronger together. Like, I love that feeling of watching people in that full self-realization. So through retreat, getting to travel, I mean, for all people involved, that would be crazy cool next year.
Okay, so everybody listening, you're thinking, how can I help Kate make this a reality? How can we work together? Where are the collaborations? That's what I love. So then the final question is, where do we find you? I guess it's twofold. And what is your favorite way of communicating?
Yeah, so you can find me at heartsfrontier.com. On Instagram, I'm Shamanic Oracle Kate. TikTok, I'm Shamanic Oracle, but also Ophelia Goodness on both of those platforms. On YouTube, I'm Hearts Frontier, and I will be doing Ophelia Goodness stuff. She exists, but she's just real quiet on YouTube at the moment. And my favorite way of connecting to people, I am a true blue typical millennial where I'm just like, any way you fly in, I can kind of handle. I can't always take a call, but that's because we live full lives. But I love actually any way, email, message, Facebook, Instagram. If someone sent me a pigeon, I'd be so excited. I really would
I have
be.
a friend
So
of mine that may be able to do that.
oh my gosh, if you could hook that up, that'd be another cool thing to have happen in 2024. Some
Oh,
pigeon mail. Bring it back.
that would be good. I'll talk to her and see what's possible.
A guy for pigeons.
So crazy and I love it. Okay. This has been a delight, an absolute delight. And as Corey likes to say, I would love to call this a to be continued.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Happily to be
Happily.
continued.
I want to give you some space at the end here to just say anything that you wanted to get off your chest. Maybe you had additional comments, just so that you have some space for you.
I appreciate that. I'd really just like to say to anyone who is at this point in the interview, thank you so much, and take some of my loving heart energy into your day. Take a moment for yourself to feel into anything that came up for you as you were listening. And if anyone does feel called or connected to my energy, I would love to connect in whatever way that leads us.